Hi, it's Adam from realitymanifestation.com. In this video, I'm going to be going through how to raise your vibration to unblock your success. Now, do you ever find it difficult to stay persistent with what you're wanting in life, or that your circumstances just keep getting worse? This is how I felt, and even worst of all, I'd came across very powerful teachings on how I could make my life better, but due to having such low energy levels, I couldn't effectively apply them, so I couldn't even put them into practice. I then stumbled across, very fortunately, what I was missing on how to raise my energy levels and vibrations, which not only allowed me to have the energy to go and apply what I'd learned, it made me enjoy the process much more, and my situation and better circumstances seemed to just start being attracted out of nowhere. In this video, I'm going to share with you these teachings that I came across so you can effectively raise your own vibration. Our vibrations could also be described as how we're feeling in our emotional state, but also not as commonly discussed is that we're sending vibrations, same as with emotions, that we're not always consciously aware of either. But just before I go through how to start changing your vibrations and going towards more of the higher vibrations and those feelings that you're wanting, it's worth addressing quickly why it's worth having an increased vibration in the first place. So we're going to go through 3 points, with number one being your vibrations are a sign of the state that you're in, and the state that we're in greatly influences how we feel and any behavior and actions that we'll take. So it will basically dictate what actions we'll take physically. Point two, you'll attract circumstances based on your vibrations that you're sending out, whilst also taking part in any activity in a peak emotional state. It will change your subconscious associations to that activity. So another word of saying this that's less technical is basically, let's say you go to perform a task at work and you're on a very high positive state and vibration, you're going to subconsciously link that work or task to being in those high peak emotional states. So you'll naturally raise your vibration as you go to do that task again, as it's a subconscious association you've created to it. And point number three of why you want to raise your vibration is having an excess of high vibrational energy is also going to raise and positively impact those around you and who you interact with. Now, as I was saying, these aren't the only reasons why you want to work on raising your vibration, but with that said, I'm going to go into and start off with what I've found personally the most effective way of rapidly raising my vibration. That's from learning how to manage my state, and I'll go through what I mean specifically around this in a moment. So this first point might not sound very metaphysical, or might not sound very energetically based, which I'm going to go through some techniques around this later on. But what I mean by a state is the emotional state that we're in at any given time. So it's easy to be explained through an example. So has there ever been a time when someone's just come into the room, they've done nothing particularly wrong, but you're just in a bad state, bad frame of mind is another way of phrasing it, and you just snap at them and go, "What do you want?" They've done nothing wrong, and just because of the state that you was in, you just snapped at them. You was in like an angry or disempowering negative state. On the flip side, has there ever been a time when you've been just in a very joyful, very high vibrational state, you're just loving life, and even though you've had some very challenging tasks or whatever situations come to you, you're just like, yeah, it's fine, and you just did it, and you're still full of joy anyway. So that's like an example of being in a very positive, beautiful, or peak state. So another way of describing the state we're in is how we're feeling moment to moment or in any given moment. So our emotions are a sign of the vibrations we're sending out, and our emotions are influenced based on the meanings we attach to our experiences. This concept and what I've learned about state management, I'd learned originally from Tony Robbins, and I also had a Tony Robbins coach a few years ago. And he uses a model to simplify this, which he calls the triad, which is basically made of 3 parts. And these 3 parts are what basically makes up our state that we're in any given moment. And that is, number one being our physiology. By physiology, meaning how we're using our body. For example, sitting upright, do we have a huge grin? Or we slouch forward, have we got a sad expression on our face? Studies have shown that by just holding what's called power poses, it literally affects our biochemistry, raising hormones such as testosterone that will make us feel more confident and powerful. So just by how we habitually move, it changes how we feel in any given moment because it changes our biochemistry. To just give you a quick example, an exercise you can try for yourself, imagine there's two versions of yourself in front of you and there's a curtain in between them so they can't see each other. So I'm just going to use myself for this. So let's say I'm picturing two Adams. They're facing towards each other, but there's a curtain in between so they don't know the other's there, so they're not influenced by each other. One side, I'd be visualizing a very happy, joyful Adam, and on the other side is sad, down, miserable, depressed. Now do this with yourself, not trying to picture me. You're doing this, focus on yourself. Now describe to yourself how the sad, miserable, down, depressed version of yourself would be holding the body. Without even asking you, I'm imagining you'll be describing how they slouch forward, there's a sad expression on the face, they're not very open, they're closed off, whereas on the other side, on the happy, joyful, excited version of yourself, it's a complete opposite, they're upright, smiling. So how did you know this without someone actually physically being there? And this is because we've either done it ourselves or we've seen others use this body language, use the physiology in this way when they're feeling these different states. Our subconscious mind has linked up just from how we're holding muscles in our face and all over our body, what it means, and it will literally affect our biochemistry just based on how we're holding our posture and just how we're moving. That's how powerful making a shift in our physiology is. So that's just one part of the triad. Remember, there's two more. So the first being is the physiology. The second part is focus, so basically what we focus on. We experience whatever we focus on and the meaning we attach to it, whether it's real or not. So to give you an example of this, and so you can start seeing how powerful controlling your focus is on controlling your own state and vibrations, I want you to focus on a challenging experience or a time that either brought a lot of anger or sadness. I want you to really focus on what it was, whether it was a particular situation, something that somebody did or said, why it made you feel that particular emotion, and how was you feeling that exact moment, how was you holding your body, what was you focused on, what impact did it have on you. Really focus on it and make it brighter. Now if you're following along and actually doing this, you'll be re-experiencing that same emotion you had during that event, and this is how powerful our focus is and where we choose to put our focus. Now, I know you're not likely enjoying this video so much right now. You're probably thinking, Adam, I came to this because I want to raise my vibration. What are you doing? Give me a moment. It's leading there. Alright, so now give your body a bit of a shake out. I'm not wanting to leave you in a down and negative state or lower vibration. I'm wanting to show you how powerful you are yourself and taking control of how you feel. So now we're going to do the opposite. Now, get yourself upright. Take a big deep breath in. Now I want to show you the opposite. So now I want you to think back of one of the happiest moments of your entire life, whether it was something that happened recent or any time in your life, whether it's something that was romantic, something that was either a very funny experience, something you was grateful for or proud of. Whatever that moment is, get something in your mind. I'm going to give it a few moments. Now that you have that moment, I want you to think back and focus on who was there and what it was about that experience or that person that made you feel those emotions. What were they doing? How are they reacting? How was you feeling? How was you holding your body? What was you focusing on at that time? Really relive it and focus on making the colours around it brighter, what were the sounds like. Really focus on the sensations that you're reliving it right now. That's it. And anything else about that particular experience that made you feel those emotions. Now, if you followed along and went through this exercise, I know without even asking you right now, you're feeling radically different to what you did moments ago. And this is how quickly we can change how we feel just from shifting what we're focusing on. So a great analogy for this is quite often if we're going through a lot of down, lower vibrational states, is that we keep replaying the same negative events in our life over and over, even if we're not consciously aware of it. So it's like the equivalent of, would you go back and watch a film you didn't like? Would you go to pay for a cinema ticket to go to a movie that you know you already dislike? Well, if the answer is no, why do you keep doing the same with the thoughts and what you're focusing on? Something to think about. So I think from them two examples, you've probably already gathered what I mean by focus now when it comes to the triad. So we're going through physiology, focus, and then the last one, with number 3, that makes up the triad, is our language. So as soon as we put words to an experience, it changes the experience. So for example, if someone was to describe a task at work as rotten and inhumane, this is going to have a much more powerful impact than just simply describing it as challenging. Another way of describing how our language affects the state we're in and our vibration is the use of our tonality. So over the next 100 hours of this video, I'm going to describe to you how to raise your vibration. So as you can see from that, you're probably thinking, oh, I've got to turn him off, get him off quick. That's a prime example of how the use of our tonality will also change how we're feeling as well, as this again will affect what's going into our subconscious and our biochemistry as well. The use of our language and our tonality is not as powerful as the first two of our physiology and focus, but it is still a very powerful factor for influencing the state that we're in. Now, when it comes to changing our state, if you just change any part of the triad from the physiology, your focus and language, it will make a change in how you feel. Now, if you change all 3, you'll feel completely different. Now, just before I go through a practical way of how you can apply this, just to give you an idea of how powerful being able to manage your state really is, this had taken me from years ago as I first learning this concept, from being low energy, depressed, unmotivated, struggling to even get out of bed, to eventually, when I made it a habit of being in better states because I conditioned it, which I'm going to go through some ways of doing in a moment, to not only feeling much more energy and being at high vibration, actually enjoying what I was doing, looking forward to what I was doing in my day, and sometimes being able to just radically shift from being in a down, depressed state to actually not just feeling okay, but actually feeling full of life and joyful. That's how powerful, when you learn how to effectively apply managing your state, really is. And in case you wonder, it's one of the core fundamental principles of what Tony Robbins teaches as well. So when it comes to the state that we're in, we habitually have a way that we use the physiology, what we'll focus on, and the way the language we'll use in our tonality. So it's like a habit, and like any habit, it can be changed. And whatever state we habitually go into eventually forms our identity. So if you're wanting to make a lasting change in not just yourself, but also for raising your vibration, this is the reason I'm going through this first, because this is like a fundamental pillar. If you work on changing your state, everything else I'm going to go through after will fall into place much easier, and eventually without any conscious extra effort. So the first thing you want to do, and this is something the Tony Robbins coach I had years ago taught me to do this, is you want to write down what the perfect version of yourself would be. So not someone else you're wanting to be, not someone else you're wanting to be to impress others. Basically, who you and yourself congruently, who you are right now, but that perfect version of yourself, that one who does have that high vibrational state, that one who does go out and achieve the goals and does what they're wanting to do, whatever it is for you, write that down. But then next to each part of the triad, so to go through it again, so that's your physiology, your focus and your language. So write down how you'd be holding yourself, how that perfect version of yourself would be moving. What would the facial expression be like? So put that next to the physiology, what that perfect version of yourself would be like. And then for your focus, write down, what would that version of yourself be focusing on? Would they be focusing on what they're grateful for? Would they be focusing on how driven they are, how proud they are, whatever it is for you? And then the same with the language as well. How would they be speaking? What kind of language would they be using? This is very important to do, because once you've done this, you can then start to look at, right, so if I want to become that version of myself, I need to make it a habit of embodying those traits and those part of the triad. And when you've done it for long enough and turn it into a habit, you'll eventually shift and naturally start to become that ultimate version of yourself that you wanted to strive for, which will naturally, unless you're for some reason wanting to aim for a low vibrational version of yourself, you will go to that version with much more energy and a higher vibration. And just on a quick side note, for any of you who do affirmations, if you apply all aspects of the triad behind your affirmations, rather than just saying something casually without much emphasis behind it, It'll make the affirmations much more powerful and effective if you get your physiology behind it. Say if you're saying an affirmation around excitement, if you move like you're excited, you get a strong tonality behind it, and you're focused like what you're affirming is already true and real. Now moving on to another key point for raising your vibration is by grounding and letting go. We currently live in one of the busiest times throughout human history, with more expectations for people, with people wanting more of a time, and people maybe expecting you to be like a super parent, an amazing employee or business owner, while simultaneously handling challenges that friends and families are experiencing, having the ability to have goods that we want on demand, such as food, TV series, and even dating apps where we can meet people without even having to leave the house. I'm not saying there's anything particularly wrong about this, but rather to point out that it can very quickly lead us to losing touch with nature and feeling a sense of peace and calm, which can cause us to focus on the needs of our ego, and which I mean by this is what's meant in Eastern philosophies as the false self, the person that we think we are that is separate to everyone, which causes us to focus on all the challenges and demands, avoiding being present to the moment and feeling connected, losing touch with our higher and true self. So now some ways to help becoming grounded, and there's a large variety of techniques out there, but I just want to go through a few that I've personally found effective. So the first being by just simply spending time in nature, in an area away from any technology. Just by being in nature, you'll feel the vibrations of the life around you. It'll raise your own vibrations. Also, the stillness of the plants and trees will help silence the mind and make you more present. A quick and effective technique you can do, and this is good to do if you're about to do any form of public speaking as well, is if you visualize a root coming from the top of your head, coming down through the crown of your head, coming all the way down through your body, down out the bottom of your pelvis, and then deeper into the ground, and this root is pulling you into the ground, keeping you firm so you're solid. You'll find this will help naturally make you feel much calmer, and you'll just naturally feel very grounded. You can just quickly try this for yourself. Quite often, especially if you currently live in a very busy lifestyle, is just by writing down the tasks that you need to do on a day-to-day basis can really help quieten down the mind, as whatever we have in our head will get looped several times, so one task can feel like three. So getting in the habit of making a list at the beginning of each day or the night before what you need to do the following day will help clear your mind of all the tasks, so it doesn't keep looping and feeling like 5 tasks is like 20. Spending time barefoot in nature. Some people suggest ideally 15 minutes per day barefoot. Now, this isn't always ideal, especially if you live in a busy lifestyle, but it's good to do now and again. There's also other exercise and techniques such as meditation and mindfulness, but I'm going to talk about them more later on when I go through some energy exercises. Now, rather than aiming to raise your vibration, you want to simply let go. Now, to quote the Buddha, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else, and you're the only one who gets burnt. I personally believe naturally we live in a high vibratory state, but it's through the traumas and experiences throughout life that lowers it. Holding on to resentment, anger, guilt, disappointment, grief, or any other emotion out of the thousands of emotions that we experience. Going through difficult times is a part of life, and it leads us to growing. Holding on to experiences and not being able to find a solution is a choice. I'm not just simply saying to forget about a past traumatic experience or that nothing bad has ever happened, it's just how you perceive it. What I'm suggesting is to try for yourself, seeing if anything as good has come from it. We're creatures of delusion. A lot of information around experiences that we've attached a meaning to are not real, even if we feel like it is to us. Now, just before going to giving an example, this isn't going to be the same in every context and experience, as, for example, the loss of a close loved one can remain with us throughout the rest of our life. I'm talking more around, which is going to lead into the example now. Say, for example, you've been feeling guilty because you made a mistake and wasn't able to help someone when you believed you could have done, and you still blame yourself. You could try asking yourself, are you the exact person today as you were during that event that made you feel guilty? If not, why continue to punish yourself over a version of yourself that you once were and no longer are today? And even if you do feel you're the same person, if it was a very recent event, if you knew what you knew now, would you have made the same decisions? We always make the best decisions we can at any given moment. If we could have made a better decision, we would have done. We're not always consciously aware of what's influenced us to make the actions or have the behaviours we had at any given moment. So if you've made a decision that wasn't what you'd perceive now as the best, just realise it was the best choice you could have made at that given moment. So if that was the best decision you could have made, why continue to beat yourself up over it? I'm not saying just to let it go so you never make it again, because maybe that's the good thing that could have come from this experience you may have gone through, whether it's from guilt or regret or any other experiences that you're feeling right now. Rather, you want to become more aware of what meaning you're attaching to it, as even if there was a part to do with a decision you've made that's impacted and made that situation happen that you're regretting or feeling guilty for, you made the best decision at the time you did that you could have done, because if you could have made a better decision, you would have done. And more importantly, rather than if what you believe in is right or wrong, because that's subjective, what is worth noting is what you're believing now and what you're doing with it, with the meaning that you have attached. Is it serving you or is it disempowering you? And if you've gone through an experience that's just completely unjust, that it was basically not your fault at all, you had no part to do with it, and what you'd gone through, what someone had done to you was completely evil, cruel, or whatever other term you'd want to use. Now again, this isn't going to be the same for every situation and context, but can anything good come from the experience that you've gone through, even if that experience still remains with you? I saw a clip that's a great example of this a few weeks ago that was to do with happiness. It was basically someone talking about how they'd lost their son and they was struggling to find any joy in any aspect of their life because it had such an effect on them. And then one day they was able to find a different meaning around it, even though the death of his son has never truly left him. He found a cause of being able to help other parents who'd been through similar situations and to help prevent the same kind of circumstances happening to other people, and allowed him to find something good from that experience, even if it may stay with him for the rest of his life. Just being able to not truly let go per se, but find a new meaning that serves others. So through the experiences that you've gone through, if there's anything you feel that's been holding you back, is there anything you can find from it at all of any good that can help serve others in any way, whether it's to prevent them going through the same thing, or whether it's a life lesson for you, or it's going to lead you onto a better path, or more appreciative of life now? Now, to go through some ways of helping letting go, you need to become aware first of that we all have a reason for whatever we do, even if it seems insane to others, and if we're not even consciously aware of why we're doing it ourselves. When someone has said or done something that has left us either feeling angry or any other disempowering emotion, naturally we'll try and perceive through our own model of the world why they would have done or say whatever they did, which usually leads us to strengthening and adding fuel to that disempowering emotion. We can never truly understand why someone would do or say something that they've done, as we're perceiving the world differently. So basically, you'll never be able to understand why someone has done or said what they've done, because you're trying to perceive and think why they've done it, but you're doing it for your own view and model of the world, so you never will be able to understand why. So trying to keep thinking back and why they've done it is not going to resolve or bring you any inner peace or being able to let it go. But by realizing people do things for their own reasons, it can help shift the perspective on the reason why someone may have done something to purposely hurt you, and it might just be a reflection of something within themselves. Now, a powerful technique you can do to help let go of disempowering negative emotions you've got towards an event or a person is to make a list of people that have wronged you or feel like they've wronged you in some way, and why you can find it to give peace within yourself to be able to forgive them. And I don't mean in the sense of where you're going to allow someone back into your life or allow them to do whatever they've done to you again, but rather for your own peace of mind and for your own levels of consciousness, is being able to see it from a different angle of understanding to why they may have done such a thing to you in the first place. Now, a powerful technique you can use to temporarily relieve a disempowering emotion, which is kind of like putting a band-aid over it, is going to help relieve it for the short term, but this isn't a long-term fix. So this is good to use, say if you have a disempowering emotion that keeps persistently coming up and you're struggling to deal with it, this is a technique you can use. So in a quiet space, you basically just want to sit with the emotion and allow it to come to the surface. Quite often in a lot of law of attraction or any kind of vibrational teachings, we're taught that we don't want any negative thoughts coming up because we can attract what we don't want in our lives. We want to remain in positive high vibrations, but by basically trying to fight a negative emotion, it's like trying to hold on to a hose pipe to stop the water from flowing out, which works in the short term, but eventually it will come back out with much more philosophy, much stronger, and the same will happen with trying to suppress a negative emotion. So back to the technique, so in a quiet space, you want to sit and focus on the emotion and just allow it to come up to the surface, and you'll notice it will be in a specific area in the body, and the more you focus on it without allowing your mind to drift, you'll start to feel it more and more intensely, like it starts to feel physically within your body, and just keep focusing on it. And at first this will feel really uncomfortable, especially if the emotion's strong, and just keep sitting with it. Eventually you'll find it will start to dissipate and eventually it will go. Now this is very challenging to do at first, especially if it's something you've been trying to suppress for a while, but it's a very powerful, quick, effective technique to do if you're finding an emotion keeps persistently coming up. Now moving on to another key area around raising our vibration is improving our health and our energy body. So we're all familiar with how we need energy from food in order to fuel our physical bodies, but what isn't discussed as much is how we all have an energy body. By having energetic blockages from holding on to traumas, blocks in our meridians, these experiences negatively affect our energy body, which also affects our health. By taking steps to improve the health of both our physical and energy body, it will lead us to raising our vibration. So I'm going to start off with going through tips for improving our physical health. I'm not going to give any generic advice such as you need to eat more or less meat or that you go on a specific detox, because even though such advice can be very beneficial to some people, one thing that is beneficial to one individual isn't going to be as much for another. I'd even suggest, in my opinion, as a former personal trainer, that the uniqueness of our physical bodies in terms of what's good for us and what we require is just as unique and diverse as our personalities are. To give you an example, some studies have proven that in different parts of the world, people have adapted and tolerate eating more carbohydrates and dairy and handle it much better. In other parts, the complete opposite. So what I do suggest, if you're not experiencing an abundance of physical energy, as being healthy isn't just the absence of disease, but it's feeling vibrant and full of vitality. It's to seek a professional, depending on your current circumstances, both medically and holistically. As there's a lot more context around what is healthy for one person and another than what's just regularly said to go and try this specific detox, for example, as that may help a lot of other people, but say if your body's not functioning correctly, and I've gone through experiences like this myself personally, following certain health advice, believing it would make me feel better, which has actually made certain conditions I've had even worse. So I recommend, if you're going through any kind of physical health conditions where you're just feeling very lethargic, ill, fatigued, to seek a professional rather than trying to read, like, say, an odd article or getting the odd snippets here and there that may be good for one specific area, but there could be a whole host of reasons why your body's not physically functioning how it should be, and it's much more complicated than what a lot of people will lead to believe in terms of health. This advice is more particularly aimed at people who are feeling physically ill and drained, not just someone who wants to feel a bit more vibrant. Now, you don't need me to tell you to cut out junk food and to eat more fruit and vegetables, as that kind of advice is pretty self-explanatory, it's obvious. So what I want to do go through, however, is some tips around what I commonly found when I was personal training that a lot of people have misconceptions around that can practically help giving you some advice to improve on your health. And one being is most people, from my experience, believe in order to become physically healthy, you have to exercise for long periods of time, and ideally within like a gym or have some certain kind of equipment, which isn't true. Studies have proven just by simply by 3-4 times a week, just even doing around 15 minutes of fast walking will have a huge impact on both your physical and mental health. You can do simple exercises from home, and there's plenty of great at-home workouts available on YouTube. If you persistently find you're avoiding doing exercises from home, consider hiring a personal trainer, as accountability will really help you. Make a list of the meals that you eat on a regular basis and keep note of how you feel just before having it, immediately after, and 3 hours after, as you'll eventually notice a pattern of how specific food items are affecting you. I'd caution on making any big changes to your diet without any professional supervision. Just by making this list, you'll start to notice if there's any food items in particular that are having a negative impact on your body. Look into methods for meal preparation or preparing a large quantity of meals in advance. This is very helpful for people that are usually very busy and only pick bad choices due to the ease and speed of it. Also related to this, have a quick default meal to go to. If you find that you're consistently picking unhealthy choices just due to being busy, having a quick meal to fall back to is good to have in case something unexpectedly comes up and you can't make your original choice. So, for example, for myself, I used to fall back on having organic grass-fed mince with onion and tomatoes, as it only takes me around 12 minutes to prepare. If you're finding that you don't drink enough fluids, a quick, easy way of helping deal with this is to download an app that monitors your fluid intake that has reminders as well. Because quite often from experience, when people aren't drinking enough fluids, it's usually because they're so busy and they just simply forget. And when you form the habit of only having a very little fluid intake, your body doesn't seem to just want to remind you to feel thirsty as much. So you have to kind of force your body to get back into that habit of wanting more fluids, if that made sense. So an app is really useful for that, and there's plenty of free ones available. Just another quick useful tip around improving your physical health is, say if you're finding you're eating a lot of junk food, make a list of food items that you do like, because quite often people don't remember all the actual food items that they do enjoy. And you may find there's something that you really like that you haven't had for a while, that you may encourage you to pick that instead of, say, a particular takeaway that you may be currently having on a regular basis. So now I want to go through some techniques for helping raise and heal your energy body. So the first one being is also activate your Taurus, if you're familiar with that concept. So you want to stand with your feet shoulder width apart and visualizing a bright light coming from above you from the top of the crown of your head, traveling through your body, out through your pelvis, down just underneath your feet. That forms a semicircle underneath you of white vibrant energy, and it starts to come around up to around the ankle level. And then reversing this process where energy comes from below you, coming back through the same path, comes out from the top of your head and forms a semicircle above. And start to repeat this a few times as you start to feel it quite powerfully. And then you want to focus on from the top and the bottom of those beams coming through from below you and above you into your body at the same time until they meet halfway, which will be around where your heart is. And then once they both meet there, focusing on your heart, you want to focus on something that reminds you of an experience that makes you feel very grateful, or ideally a loving experience. And as you start to focus on that sensation, focus on both beams exiting out of your body through the top of your head and out your pelvis, exploding out with more energy. Focus on these semicircles coming towards each other now, and as they start to pull towards each other, a full sphere of energy is formed all around you. So you're completely covered and surrounded by a sphere of white glowing energy. And as you form this, you want to focus on feeling energy all around your skin, and that start to expand out like a balloon having air pumped into it as it expands out and touches the sphere of energy around you. And if you go through and experience this, you will feel naturally a high increase in your vibration and your energy. Other methods and techniques you can use for raising your energy body is through meditation and mindfulness practices. There are already countless sources of information on the power and importance of meditation, so I won't repeat them here, but what I will say to expand upon them is that you've likely already heard the phrase, where focus goes, energy flows. If you've practiced meditating on a regular basis, you've likely experienced times when you've very intently focused on a specific area of your body and notice how you feel the energy in that area, that it feels much more energized. Wherever we intentionally focus on, our energy goes into that area. And the same is applied as well and worth noting when it comes to manifesting, but I want to keep this around energy and raising a vibration for now. So ways of being able to practically apply this is practicing not only meditation but simple mindfulness techniques. So when you go to have a shower, when you're washing your hands, when basically doing anything that doesn't require a lot of analytical analysis and a lot of logical thinking behind it, where you just focus on the sensations of what you're doing. So as the water's going onto your skin in the shower, and the more you practice this, you'll naturally start to increase and raise your vibration, as you're not wasting your force and sending out energy needlessly without it actually being used to energize yourself. A very quick energy raising technique you can do is just simply focus on the sensations of having warm energy all around you, touching your entire body, similar to the sensation of getting into a warm bath. Just focus all around your skin, around your entire body, the top of your head, just suddenly warm energy all around you, and focus on it being white and vibrant as well. If you just do this instantly without getting your head and thinking how to do it, just do it, you will instantly feel an increase in your vibration. So now to wrap up everything I've gone through, just before I summarise the key takeaways from this video, I want to congratulate you if you made it this far, as we've covered a lot of information, especially if you've gone through the exercises, as some of them were quite emotionally challenging. So the key takeaways from this video are, the way we feel is due to the state that we're in, and by changing our triad that is made up of our physiology, focus and language, we can take back control of and change our state and the way we feel, which will cause us to be in a higher vibration. Holding on to disempowering emotion towards an event or person only negatively impacts ourselves. Everyone does things for their own reasons. Even if someone does something to purposely hurt you, it's a reflection of themselves. Make a list of people you feel have wronged you in some way, so you can find it within yourself to forgive them, not for their sake, but so you can find peace within yourself. We live in a very busy and demanding time. Finding time to ground ourselves will help remain in the moment and reduce anxiety, which will naturally help raise your vibration. We have both a physical and energy body. Improving the health of both will also raise your vibration. So these changes won't happen overnight, so be easy on yourself. As long as you keep persistent and form the new habits of focus on your state and being more mindful, you'll naturally embody and become the version of yourself with a higher vibration. If you found this video useful, if you could give it a like. I always love to hear people's deepest insights of what they're going to apply from any of our videos, so if you could let me know in the comments below. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to see more, if you'll click on the subscribe button, because we'll add content on a regular basis. If you want to get notified, also click on the bell icon. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall see you next time.